Welcome to another episode of Books and Bytes. Today we're embarking on a deep dive into Jeff Keller's acclaimed book, Attitude is Everything. It's a title that, well, it makes a pretty bold promise. Transform your life just by shifting your mindset. So our mission for you today is to really extract Keller's most profound insights, directly from his personal journey and the core principles he champions. The goal is to give you a clear shortcut, kind of a distilled understanding of how a shift in attitude can unlock, well, truly extraordinary personal and professional breakthroughs. And the premise itself is quite fascinating, isn't it? Keller, a deeply disillusioned lawyer, finds his true calling in motivational speaking, but the catalyst. It was a single infomercial that changed his entire trajectory. So how does a late-night infomercial lead to a complete career pivot and a best-selling book? It sounds like the setup for a great story, and honestly, it truly is.
Yeah, what's particularly insightful about Keller's approach is how he distills, years of personal application and research into this remarkably clear, actionable framework. Think, speak, and act. This isn't just abstract theory. He genuinely lived these principles through his own transformation. It's a deeply personal journey, and that's underscored by his dedication of the book to his wife, Dolores. Her unwavering belief and encouragement were clearly foundational to his change.
Right. Let's begin at the very start of that transformation then. Back in the early 1980s, Jeff Keller was a lawyer. And by his own account, he was profoundly miserable. He described himself as physically hunched, constantly in pain, looking, much older than his late 20s, plagued by headaches and a churning stomach. Spiritually, he said he felt dead. So one night in late 1985, completely burned out and desperate, he just blurted out, "There's got to be more to my life than this misery." And then in the quiet desperation of 1 a.m., channel surfing, he stumbles upon an infomercial for the Mental Bank. Endorsed by Florence Henderson, from the Brady Bunch fame, this home study course was based on the idea that our subconscious beliefs dictate our achievements. In a moment of just pure desperation, he impulse bought it. His wife, Dolores, was, well, understandably surprised.
And this personal turning point is really where Keller introduces the foundational concept of his first lesson. Your attitude is your window to the world. He illustrates this so well with that analogy of two people, Sarah and Sam, at a coffee shop. Both get identical service, identical food, same circumstances, but Sarah, with her positive outlook, she has a delightful lunch. While Sam, with his pessimistic lens, finds fault in absolutely everything. Such a powerful demonstration of how our mental filter, our attitude, doesn't just influence, but literally dictates our perception of reality. Whether we see opportunity or, obstacle, is that profound difference between an I can and an I can't mindset.
Yeah, and he builds on that with the clean mental window analogy. It makes so much sense. Like, think about a child learning to walk. They fall, they smile, they get right back up endlessly, right? With this pure, unblemished, positive attitude. Their window is squeaky clean, but as we grow, life inevitably splatters dirt on it, criticism, ridicule, rejection, disappointment, doubt, all that stuff. Keller realized his own window as a lawyer was just caked with this negativity, basically obscuring all possibility. The insight here isn't just that we have control, but that consistency in cleaning that filter is what prevents small smudges from becoming like impenetrable grime. It's those daily micro actions that build a truly clear perspective, not just, a one-time scrub.
Precisely. And Keller reinforces the profound choice we have over our attitude, even in the most dire circumstances. He brings in that incredibly powerful example of Dr. Viktor Frankl from Man's Search for Meaning, who survived Nazi death camps, lost everything, yet still clung to that ultimate freedom to choose his attitude. As Frankl himself noted, everything can be taken from a man but one thing: the last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And this perspective is echoed by Hugh Downs, who states, "A happy person is not a person in a certain set of circumstances, but rather a person with a certain set of attitudes." It's a potent reminder of our internal power.
Right, that internal power. It leads directly into the next core principle, doesn't it? You're a human magnet. This is where Earl Nightingale's famous 6-word secret to success and failure really comes into sharp focus. We become what we think about. This fundamental truth, it's echoed by giants like Napoleon Hill, who declared, "What the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve." And Henry Ford's famous line, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." It just highlights that undeniable link between our dominant thoughts and, well, our external reality.
Exactly. And Keller vividly illustrates this human magnet principle through his own story of manifesting real estate ownership back in 1986. After years of sort of unconscious doubt, once he shifted his dominant thoughts and consistently focused on owning 2 investment homes, well, he relentlessly pursued that vision, and within months, he actually achieved it. So this raises an important question for you, the listener. How strong, how dominant is your prevailing belief about what's possible for you? Keller really emphasizes it's not about fleeting positive thoughts, but consistent, deeply ingrained thought patterns. Because thought always precedes action.
Okay, so how do we actively change those deeply ingrained, often negative thinking patterns? Keller emphasizes this two-pronged approach, really centered on controlling your mental input. First, he advocates for becoming acutely aware of your internal self-talk, those insidious whispers like, I can't do this, or I always mess things up. And second, he prescribes daily practices, 15 to 30 minutes of positive, uplifting literature every morning and again right before bed. Maybe the Bible, biographies, self-improvement books, that sort of thing. And critically, consistently listening to motivational audio programs from legends like Zig Ziglar and Earl Nightingale. It's that consistent positive input that profoundly reshapes your internal landscape.
Right. And this deliberate mental shaping then naturally flows into the powerful practice of visualization, which Keller calls picture your way to success. He describes it as creating movies of the mind, or inner pictures. What's fascinating here is how he explains that images formed in childhood, both positive and negative, kind of unconsciously continue to impact our present actions. He uses powerful examples, like Celine Dion picturing stardom from age 5, or world-class athletes mentally rehearsing successful outcomes before they physically achieve them. The truly empowering part is that you are the producer, director, and yes, the casting director of your own mental movies.
And you can actively create powerful new pictures. That's the key, isn't it? If you fear public speaking, for instance, Keller urges you to visualize not nervousness, but like confident delivery, a smooth presentation, the audience applauding. He emphasizes involving all your senses. So if you're picturing that Caribbean beachfront house, don't just see it, smell the salt air, feel the warm sand, hear the breeze. You get the idea. He shares that remarkable anecdote about Jim Carrey, who, when he was still unknown, famously wrote himself a $10 million check for acting services rendered, post-dated 5 years ahead. And, well, that visualization literally manifested. But he also warns against the danger of negative visual aids, like that old I-O, so off to work I go bumper sticker, which can unconsciously program your mind for debt. Okay, so now let's shift our focus a bit to the second pillar of Keller's framework, the power of your words. He introduces this really potent domino effect. Your thoughts inevitably lead to your words, which then reinforce your beliefs, driving your actions, and ultimately shaping your results. He illustrates this with Tom's sales journey. Negative thoughts led to negative words, then negative beliefs, very little action, and, well, predictably poor sales. It's a clear chain reaction.
Yeah, the incredible, often underestimated power of words is truly highlighted here. Keller shares that inspiring story of Kent Cullers, a blind NASA scientist who doesn't describe his condition as a disability, but rather as a trivial affliction, or maybe just barely an inconvenience. His precise choice of words empowers him, to transcend limitations. This raises an important question. Are your words consistent with the path you truly wish to be on? If your inner and outer dialogue doesn't align with your goals, your results are really going to struggle to follow.
Which brings us to a really simple yet profound insight in Lesson 7. How are you? Keller contends that our immediate answer to this, super common question, profoundly shapes not only our day, but also our internal attitude. He categorizes responses into negative, lousy, thank God it's Friday, mediocre, I'm okay, could be worse, and truly positive, terrific, fantastic. He particularly laments those who live for thank God it's Friday, essentially admitting, 4/5 of their work week is just misery.
Mm-hmm. The impact of these seemingly simple responses is remarkably profound. Saying lousy or not too bad immediately affects your physiology and emotions, causing you to maybe slump your shoulders and feel even more down. The act as if principle is really clearly shown here. Even if you don't feel terrific, by articulating it, you start to align your physiology and mindset toward that state. He shares that vivid example of Sally, who felt utterly exhausted until she won $10 million in the lottery. Suddenly, all fatigue vanished. It proves that perceived tiredness can often be mental, not purely physical.
Yeah, that's a great example. And given how much our words shape our reality, it's maybe no surprise that Keller takes aim at one of the most common pitfalls of language, complaining. This brings us to his powerful Lesson 8, stop complaining. Mm-hmm. He emphasizes that, nobody really likes a complainer, and it's utterly counterproductive. Complaining just reinforces your own pain, keeps you trapped in negativity, and it actively drives other people away.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Pedro's story from Honduras is just such a powerful lesson in perspective and gratitude. Despite his family losing everything in Hurricane Mitch, thousands dead, over 1 million homeless, Pedro maintained this incredibly upbeat attitude. He didn't whine, He actively took action to help others. This story highlights how adversity, when met with the right attitude, can paradoxically give us perspective, teach gratitude, bring out hidden potential, encourage necessary changes, provide valuable lessons, open new doors, and build really unshakable confidence.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective, moving from just words to actual action. Okay, so let's explore the final pillar of Keller's framework now. Taking decisive action. He begins with lesson 9. Associate with positive people. He illustrates this with the story of Mike, who back in high school was kind of held back by negative friends who scoffed at his dreams. But when he went to college and consciously chose to spend time with positive, encouraging people, his life totally transformed. He now runs a successful business, which is really a testament to that old axiom. Tell me who you hang out with, and I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah, and Keller clearly distinguishes between toxic people, the dream killers and energy vampires who constantly spew negativity, and nourishing people who are positive, supportive, and lift your spirits. He uses that analogy of silly songs on the radio to explain how repeated messages, especially from those around us, influence our minds. Just like a song gets stuck in your head, so do negative thoughts from negative associations. Smokey's sponge theory really encapsulates this. We just soak up the prevailing attitudes and conversations of those around us, for better or worse. So this raises an important question. Are the things and people around you actively helping you toward success, or are they holding you back?
That is such a critical question. And Keller doesn't shy away from advising us to actively evaluate our friendships and relationships. He suggests limiting or even eliminating contact with friends who consistently drag you down, especially if they show no desire to change. With toxic relatives, he advises putting controls in place to reduce their impact. Maybe gently shifting conversations or limiting calls without necessarily abandoning family ties altogether. And in the workplace, he suggests actively avoiding negative colleagues, maybe opting for positive lunch experiences. Reinforcing that attitude directly impacts productivity.
Right. This pursuit of positive influence then leads naturally into lesson 10. Confront your fears and grow. Keller quotes the motivational speaker Gil Eagles. If you want to be successful, you must be willing to be uncomfortable. He introduces the comfort zone concept, explaining that true growth, real progress, happens only when we bravely step outside this familiar, often limiting circle.
Wow.
He highlights common fears that hold people back: public speaking, hearing no, changing jobs, and that really pervasive fear of failure.
Yeah, the benefit of backing away from fear, Keller argues, is just momentary relief from anxiety. That's it. But the price is steep. Lowered self-esteem, feeling powerless, sabotaging potential success, and ultimately leading a pretty uneventful, maybe even boring life. He shares his own high school dating strategy, basically never asking anyone out to avoid rejection, which just left him feeling lousy and like he'd wimped out. He realized that confronting fears wasn't really about a guaranteed win, but that you're a winner just by entering the arena, just showing up.
Exactly. Keller himself started as a shy lawyer, gave his, as he calls it, very unimpressive first motivational talk in 1988, but through persistence, he became a sought-after professional speaker. He also shares Dottie Berman's inspiring story. She left a secure teaching job in her 50s to pursue her dream of show business, released a CD in her 60s, and found profound happiness despite setbacks. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wisely put it, do the thing you fear and the death of fear is certain. It's all about taking that initial uncomfortable step.
And taking that step, even if it's imperfect, leads right into lesson 11, get out there and fail. He opens with the absolutely astonishing career failures of Sally Jessy Raphael. I mean, she couldn't pay credit card bills for 26 years, moved 25 times, fired 18 times, lived on food stamps, even slept in her car. All before becoming a multi-millionaire TV talk show host. He likens it to learning to ride a bicycle. Falls are not just inevitable, they're a necessary, integral part of the whole process. What's truly insightful here, I think, is that successful people don't avoid failure. They actually fail their way to success.
Absolutely. The fascinating thing here is that failure isn't the end. It's really a necessary component of persistence. He provides striking examples, like the phenomenal success of Chicken Soup for the Soul, which got 33 rejections before finally securing one yes, launching a series that sold over 30 million copies. Amazing. Or Rush Limbaugh, who floundered in radio for 12 years before his big breakthrough. The only time success truly becomes impossible is when you quit. Failure is just feedback, really, a stepping stone.
Yeah, Keller even shares his own persistent story with a client he called for years, sending newsletters and flyers without a single sale. But then, in 1998, they finally hired him, explicitly citing his persistence as the reason. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It's about looking failure squarely in the face, not as some deterrent, but as a natural and even valuable part of the success process.
Okay, so finally we arrive at Lesson 12, networking that gets results. Keller opens with that powerful chain reaction sparked by meeting Stu Kamen back in 1990, which unexpectedly led to a Think and Grow Rich newsletter feature, merchandise sales, speaking gigs, and even a crucial connection to Jim Donovan, who then led him to his book publisher. Wow, it's really about leveraging your efforts and building genuine relationships for mutual benefit. Networking can open doors to clients, increase job opportunities, provide invaluable resources, and enrich your social and spiritual life too.
Right. And he outlines key networking techniques. Always projecting a winning attitude, of course. Actively participating in groups, just like Stu Kamen did by joining the advertising club and volunteering. Serving others without expecting immediate returns, like Mark LeBlanc's giving approach. Being a good listener, which is huge.
Yeah.
Also, calling people just because you care. Treating every single person as important, not just the influential ones. Meeting new people at events like his encounter with Joan Burge. Going beyond your comfort zone to introduce yourself. And finally, asking for what you want, but only after you've given generously first.
Yes, and Keller stresses the often overlooked importance of follow-up. Send prompt notes after meeting someone new. Acknowledge powerful presentations. Always send a thank you note for referrals. Send congratulatory cards for achievements, or even condolences for losses, little things that matter. This raises an important question. Are you willing to put in a lot of consistent effort before reaping the big rewards? Networking takes time. And remember, great networking isn't a substitute for excellence in your field. It's about amplifying your existing skills and building connections that multiply your impact.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into attitude is everything, let's circle back to Jeff Keller's profound core message. That impactful moment he had in Manila, standing 8,000 miles from home, it just solidified his realization. Changing his attitude truly changed his life. In his own powerful words, the greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind.
And Dr. Charles Swindoll's words perfectly capture the power of choice that underpins all of Keller's principles. Life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. You are unequivocally in charge of your attitude, and it's the rare individual, Keller says, who consistently applies these success principles. Your attitude isn't just a reflection of your circumstances, it's the very lens through which you create them.
So believe in yourself. Have the courage and persistence to follow your dreams. And above all, never, never forget that. Attitude is everything. To dive deeper into these powerful concepts and start your own journey of transformation, grab a copy of Jeff Keller's Attitude is Everything from the link in our description. And make sure to subscribe to Books and Bytes for more deep dives into life-changing reads.